the extinction of portfolios in tattoo magazines might just be one of the most detrimental hits to tattooing I can think of. And it might be part of the reason why tattooing is losing its spark. There's a time when you had to physically go into a tattoo shop to see an artist's work, to see the quality and see what they could do. You'd walk in, you'd sit down, and portfolios and magazines would messily scatter across their coffee table or their counter or wherever they happen to have all this creative magic going on. Not only did you see their portfolios, but looking through the magazines, you kind of understood where they got their inspiration from, who they looked up to. With each turn of the page, you were able to look at the tattooer's work and really study it, see how crisp their lines were, how saturated their color was. You really, as a client, got to understand how good this artist was. And then page turning turned to thumb flicking, and less art got seen, really, and just got passed over. Tattoo artists would painstakingly curate their portfolios, making sure the images were super crisp and clean, that the images looked saturated. We'd be creative as much as we could. We'd put them with, if we had a certain style, we'd put that style with that style, that style with that style. We'd put pinups with pinups, or we'd put bananas with bananas. All kinds of crazy ways to organize our portfolios. But we tried to make it to where it would catch the client's eye, or catch an artist's eye that came in to, talk to us or hang out or whatever. I remember going to shops all the time just to look at portfolios. It was a way for me to kind of like get better at what I was doing and to actually talk to the artist. Because if you go and look at someone's portfolio, whether you're an artist or a client, it makes them feel like, hey, you're here to look at my work. You're here to actually see art. You're here to see creativity. And so when you talk to them, they're much more forthcoming with anything that you want, any questions you have. And as an artist, as a young artist, I would go in to look at these portfolios and I would tell them, hey, I work at such and such shop and I just, I dig your work. I just want to look at your portfolio. And they'd be like, hey, yeah, cool. And then we'd sit down and talk 4 hours about tattoos, unless they had a tattoo. And then sometimes I'd end up getting tattooed by them. So it also kind of brought the community together in that sort of way, because who doesn't want to talk about tattoos when you're a tattoo artist or art in general? I mean, and on top of that, like, this bullshit. You make friends that way. It was honestly a way to kind of create that community. Fun story. So I was living with this girl, but one day her dad shows up. I was living with her and her parents, and her dad shows up and he's like, hey, I know that you tattoo or have tattooed. I found this portfolio on the side of the road. Do you know whose it is? Looked through it. Sure enough, I knew exactly who it was. So the next day, hopped in my truck, me and my friend took it to the artist. And he was so thankful that not only did he give my friend a free tattoo, but I got a job out of it. So, yeah, portfolios, very important. Going to a tattoo shop and looking at someone's portfolio was like looking at a rare book. Imagine going to see your favorite author and there's only one copy of their book. Or imagine going to see your favorite artist and they only have one copy of their book of art. And you get to see it. You get to hold it in your hand, flip through it, and look at it. But only people that go there can read that book or see that art. It's insane. I mean, if you think about it, isn't it? I mean, you only get that one copy. So the fact that you got to see it over somebody else was amazing. And the only other time you'd probably see that artwork is if it was ever luckily able to be in a magazine. So if you got to see that book, dude, it was crazy. I remember going to conventions and I got to see Jeff Gogwe's portfolio in person, and then going back home and telling all my coworkers and friends about it. They were stoked and jealous. Hell, one time I got to see Grimes' portfolio and sketchbook. This is important for a couple reasons. One, Grimes' work is amazing, and it's hard to see his work outside of like other books that you got to buy. He doesn't really post to social media. So when you get a chance to see his work, you got to see his work. Now, again, this is back in the day. And today, to this day, he doesn't really post a lot to his Instagram. So you got to see his work in person and see his portfolio and comment on his work and talk to him about it. It was incredible. And secondly, just getting to hold something like, I mean, the way he has portfolio and his book setups was just crazy. So it's an intense way of feeling like you're connected to this more than if you bought a book from him or bought a book from a bookshop that had his work in it. I don't know, I'm rambling, but still, seeing someone's portfolio was important to us because, again, there was no other chance of seeing it other than possibly being in a magazine. So think about that. Think about how important that was. And think about the fact that if you wanted to get tattooed by someone and the only way you knew if their work was good was you had to go into the shop and physically look at a portfolio. They're not going to send you stuff via email. They don't have Instagram. There was no social media back then. So you had to go in and see them. And on top of like the perk to going to see them was you got to talk to them in person too. Tattoo magazines had the exact same kind of power. If I couldn't go see someone's portfolio because they lived in another state or another country, at least I had a chance to possibly see their work in the latest tattoo magazine. And there were several publications, so the chances of me seeing several of the people that I liked was pretty high. Now, tattoo magazines usually had the best in it, for the most part. There's a couple stragglers. I would get to look at the artist's work and kind of pick it apart and deconstruct it and figure out how they did certain things and how I could apply those things to my style. And on top of that, we took the time to just look. I mean, actually look at their work. I mean, every little detail. Line work, color saturation, blending, all that stuff. Like the idea, the composition, how they placed it. We really just studied these tattoos because it wasn't scrolling. It wasn't like scrolling. We didn't see it. Oh, that's cool. Double tap, like it. We're in a magazine. We're in the magazine. You know, we're reading the articles. We're looking at their work.
When I first walked into that tattoo shop that first time, when I was there, this is the magazine that was on the newsstand. Like they would get the issues and sell them. And I didn't know who any of these people were at all. Like Don Ed Hardy, Dan Higgs, Alex Binney, Marcus Pacheco, Elio Espana, Timothy. But these are like some of my favorite people in tattooing to this day. And then there's this Primal Urge article, and they're doing really interesting things, like stuff I didn't even know was possible. And I would just study this stuff and think, like, how do you get these effects? And just slave over these drawings, just racking my brain trying to figure out how this stuff worked.
And when you read the articles, you find out what inspired them. You find out why they chose the style they chose. You learn about all these different things and not just looking at the art. I feel like that's kind of important because when you get to know your artist, or get to know someone that you like or admire, it kind of makes you feel like you're more connected, and it kind of makes you feel like the art is much more important to you. And I also realized back in the day that clients too enjoyed the magazines. They would come in and flip through them while they're waiting to talk to the artist. And even though they came in with an idea, they'd flip through our portfolios and magazines, and then by the time we got to them, they're like, hey, I had this idea for this tattoo, but I saw this in this magazine. Is there any way we can take my idea and kind of mold it to this kind of style? Sure thing. Why not? The magazines not only gave us inspiration, but they gave our clients inspiration too. It took their idea to the next level, and they kind of got to see different art forms. And that happens today too. People come in with their TikTok images or Pinterest images, and they kind of want to talk to us about how to duplicate it. But there's differences. Back in the day, people came in and looked at portfolios. They would, again, look at our artwork. They look at the magazines and see the styles we liked. So they kind of chose us based on, hey, this is the style that you do. Here's my idea. Let's see if we can collaborate and make this something unique to me, or, you know, something that's like more of what I see in my head that I can't quite explain. Nowadays, people come in and they bring in, again, the TikTok stuff. They bring in the Pinterest stuff. They bring in the social media stuff. And it's usually fully fleshed out. So they see it and they're like, well, that's how I want it. There's less of a collaboration thing, which again, it's the client's tattoo. It's on them forever. But there's a little bit of that camaraderie missing. There's a little bit of that exchanging of ideas. You know, there's a little bit of that uniqueness lost because they're bringing a tattoo that's already on somebody and they kind of want that. Or they're bringing something that's on Pinterest that's been liked 1,000 times that's also been tattooed several thousand times. As far as magazines go, they were made to push the uniqueness of a tattoo, the creativity, or to the style, or just to show how good an artist was. You look at social media now, and the algorithm pushes popularity, not uniqueness. The algorithm could give a shit if your work looks good or if it's placed right. They care more about like, oh, this has been liked 1,000 times, let's keep pushing it. When people would come in and look at magazines, or people would buy magazines on the stands, whether you're a client or just a tattooer, you would look at this magazine and you would study the tattoos. Like, you wouldn't just flip the page. You would literally just kind of flip the page and look at these tattoos for a minute. You would read the articles about the tattoo artists and where they came from and what styles they do, and where they're going and where they're guest spotting and all that stuff. As a tattooer, like I said before, you would deconstruct the tattoo. You'd figure out how this tattoo worked the way it works, how it flows, how can I incorporate this flow and this thing into my style. As a client, it gave you ideas to where to take your tattoo next, or like if you had that idea, like, man, that's cool, I want to do it in that style. And if you're a fan of tattoos and not just a tattoo artist, you'd buy magazines because like your artist might have been in there, or an artist that you like is going to be in there. And so again, you wanted to see that. Whereas now, as a tattoo artist or as a client, you follow all these artists you like. You love these artists. You love seeing their work. But now, when their tattoo comes across your feed, or their art comes across your feed, you look at it for a second, double tap it because you know it's the artist that you like, and you move on. You don't really care to really look at the image or to read the caption half the time. It's just a matter of, I'm consuming this. I have more to consume. I must move on. And I think this is why kind of creativity is kind of lost, or getting lost, in the tattoo world and with clients. Tattoo artists and clients alike aren't really being inspired so much because, again, when someone comes in with something off Pinterest or whatever that's a quick little thing and it's already pre-done and they already get to see it fully visualized, they just get that. And it was a quick response rather than looking at it, studying it, and seeing other tattoos they like and kind of coming up with a mishmash of their idea with what they like, and then talking to the artist and getting the artist's input on it. Artists might scroll past a tattoo, see it really quick, automatically love it, click it and save it, and then just trace it later on, or just copy it verbatim, rather than saving it and then looking at other artwork and other styles, other tattooers, and looking at their work and seeing how to apply it. It's just become too easy to steal and to be less creative. And that's kind of why I feel like we need magazines. Now, people stole magazines too. I knew tons of artists that would just trace a picture out of a magazine, which was ridiculous. But it was fewer and far between than now. It was very rare. More often than not, the artists that I knew would see a particular art style they liked, or a particular image, or a particular tattoo artist. They would take their images, pin it up on their wall. They literally tear the pages out of the magazine and tack it up on their wall like a poster and just stare at it and look at it. And whenever they wanted to draw something, they had all these pictures on their wall of tattoos they liked, and it was more of an inspiration, a way for them to kind of like get ideas for how they wanted their image to go based on what they had around them. So yeah, I think it's just become too accessible for tattooers and clients to see something they like and automatically just say, I want that. And for the clients, even more so, because clients see something they like and they don't really know about tattooing, and the average person doesn't know about tattooing very much or about art. So they just see something they like and they think, oh, I just want this on my body. Now, that's not necessarily the client's fault. I mean, a lot of people nowadays, especially in our times, they want to know what they're getting. They want to see a fully rendered piece that showcases the whole thing. They want to know the color, they want to know how it's going to look on their skin, all that stuff. So when people bring in a tattoo that's already on somebody and they're like, I want this tattoo, it's because they see it as a tattoo. Because they see it and know that, hey, if it works on them, it should work on me. Or people that bring in AI artwork. It's fully rendered. They got to type in what they wanted into the computer and AI gave them exactly what they wanted. Like, okay, this is what I want. Not realizing that some AI stuff is really not tattooable. So it's not their fault. They just want something on their body, and they want it specific, and they want to know what it's going to look like. And it's hard to trust people that you don't know. I mean, you go into a shop, and sometimes the shop might be intimidating. They see people like us, and they're like, okay, how do I tell them I want this, but not be an asshole, but also not make them mad? Look, people, we're not assholes, okay? We may look like this, but we're nice people. Most of us are nice people. I'm a nice person. I'm a teddy bear. Come see me. I'll treat you right. And everyone at my shop will treat you right. Most people at other shops will treat you right too. I'm just saying, don't be afraid to go into a tattoo shop and tell the artist what you want. Don't be a dick about it, and they won't be a dick about it, but don't be afraid, because that's what we do. But also keep in mind, This is why portfolios were important, because you'd go into a shop and you'd look through their portfolio, and if something in you clicked, we were like, I like this art style, and you had an idea already in your head or sketched out, and you're like, this is my idea, I like your style, what can we do? And this grumpy looking tattooer would just light up like a child and talk to you for an hour about all these ideas and how we can incorporate your tattoo and your idea into this tattoo style. It's all about the collaboration. It's all about letting the artist know that you want to get tattooed by them for one reason. Either you like them, or you like their style, or you heard a lot of good things about them. But I think choosing a that's another video for another time. But I think choosing a tattoo artist is really important and something that's also gone away. And I think, again, that's where magazines were important, because I knew artists that were in magazines that we had clients that would fly to them or travel to them because someone liked their work so much and they read the article about the artist and kind of just felt connected to them, that they would travel to go see them. Hell, when I was still a novice, a green tattooer, I had someone see my work. I had a little blurb in a magazine, and someone came all the way to Abilene, Texas. Okay, all the way. They were in New Mexico, so it wasn't that far. But they came from New Mexico to Abilene, Texas to get tattooed by me because they saw a blurb about me in a magazine. So, I mean, that stuff, just looking at a tattoo artist's work and getting to know the tattoo artist is what really gets you the best results. And social media is supposed to be this whole thing where we put ourselves out there, but all it really is like a place to stash our photos, and hopefully we get likes and maybe some comments. We don't really tell people about our lives. Most tattoo artists don't put their lives out there anymore. They just put the tattoo work out there and kind of let it fend for itself. Now, magazines were the trendsetters. They were creating what was popular at the time. And so, like, we were desperately trying to get into magazines because we wanted to show off our work and what we could do. But that was the tricky part. Getting into magazines were extremely difficult. But this kept you producing the best work possible. You would try harder and harder and harder every single time you got denied entry into a certain magazine because you wanted to make sure your work was better than the last time, so they would actually acknowledge it. You would send in magazine submissions. I mean, I would send them in all the time, at least every 2 or 3 months, and they just get rejected until one day I got, again, a little blurb, or I got at least a picture mentioned in like their gallery section. But it was super difficult. So when you wanted to really push yourself to get into this magazine, you push yourself harder in tattooing. So it kind of did this whole thing where the drive to be the best because you saw the best was even more prevalent than now, whereas you pick a style and you stay in that lane. Or you have an artist you like and you might kind of just mimic that artist, and that's the style that you're going for the rest of your career. I know I keep hyping this, but tattoo portfolios and tattoo magazines gave us insight into the artists. We got to see why they do what they do. We got to see, again, what inspired them. So as an artist, it inspired me to find other things outside of tattooing. I'll read articles where artists talk about like, oh, my inspiration came from comic books, or my inspiration came from the museum, or my inspiration came from the zoo, or from a certain movie that I liked, or a certain style of movies that I liked. We learned that inspiration came from other places other than just the tattoos that they consumed or the artists that were around them. A lot of tattoo artists got inspired by things that just were going on in their life, in their little world, in their bubble, which caused us to look outward for other things that inspired us. Now, I grew up loving comic books. I've loved comic books since I can remember actually being able to read or even look at pictures. Hell, my first drawing ever was a drawing of Wolverine. So I realized, I need to go back to my roots. I need to go back to like looking at things outside of tattoos that would inspire me. And that's kind of how I developed certain styles over time. My styles change constantly. I like to do every style that you can think of. But when I was first coming up, I was going back to looking at comic books. I loved horror movies, so I would use horror movies as inspiration to draw certain gory things and details. I mean, hell, I want to be Paul Booth forever, and Paul Booth draws demonic shit. So I go to horror movies to draw horrific shit. I would go to art museums. I would go to art galleries. I would go to friends' houses, and sometimes I'd see something on their wall, like a poster or whatever, like that is a cool poster. I want to draw something like that. Hell, I saw a crazy leaf one time and turned that leaf into like this crazy little bug that actually got tattooed on somebody at a convention. The inspiration that we learned from the things we learned from tattoo magazines about these artists made us who we were today. It made us much more creative because we saw how creativity was dealt out to other people, or how other people took creativity in, I guess. Now, over time, I kind of forgot about that too. I kind of forgot about how creativity was found. And I haven't read a tattoo magazine article and I don't know how long. So I too am kind of guilty of not pursuing that whole magazine, how they are important kind of thing. And I scroll on Instagram and Pinterest and all that stuff just as much as anyone else. But one day we were talking about magazines at work, and I thought, man, I need to do a video on magazines. And I actually had friends of mine bring magazines up for me to use for this video and to read. And after reading these articles again, man, it inspired me. It gave me a new boost for like creating art and getting out there and finding other ways to come up with ideas. Now, while I may reminisce about the forgotten gems of tattoo magazines portfolios, and I think about that whole idea that you really don't miss what you have until it's gone, I do look forward to the time that we're in now. And as back then, I looked forward to social media as a way to get my artwork out to tons of people. Most tattoo artists saw social media as a great thing. It was a way for the world to see our artwork, for us to gain followers and to gain new clients and to gain new friends in the tattoo world. This video may come off as some bashing of social media, and it's not. I enjoy social media for the most part, but I want this video to basically be a love letter to portfolios and to tattoo magazines. Now, you can still see tattoo magazines on the shelves in bookstores sometimes, occasionally, but they too have changed because a lot of the articles are about how some tattoo artists kind of got their start on social media and how that's how they got famous. So even the articles are different, and the tattoos, you see some good tattoos in there, things that could be creative and things that can like really spark creativity. But like social media and like things you see online, it's kind of the same generic stuff. Black and gray realism kind of looks the same. You know, you have the neo-traditional trends, stuff like that. So no one's really pushing the bar anymore when it comes to magazines. Now, I do like social media still, even though I feel like we're kind of getting the same humdrum of things. But every now and again, I do see people on there creating something new and unique, and they're just being creative with flow and all this stuff. And I also use social media as a way to not just connect with tattooers, but to connect with other artists and other types of art. So this isn't a rant against tattoo magazines. Right? This isn't a rant against social media. It's just a love letter to tattoo magazines and portfolios with a hint of sadness that they're gone because social media kind of took over. So I think that if we use social media properly as tattoo artists, it can still be as inspiring as tattoo magazines once were. I think if we still stop to take a look at a tattoo rather than just looking at it real quick, liking it, moving on, if we study that tattoo, zoomed in, all that stuff, which some of us do, some people do, we can still find that spark of being like, we're learning something. So it's not a rant. I'm not saying I didn't want this to be some video about like, oh, back in my day, creativity was better than creativity now. Magazines were better than social media. They're not. They're two different things, and they each have their own special thing to me and to other people. So not a rant. It is a rant, but it's not a negative rant. Are you getting what I'm saying? Are you getting what I'm putting down? If you liked what I had to say and you want to see more, please hit that like button and hit the subscribe button. And if you have comments on whether you missed the days of magazines and portfolios, or you have never seen a magazine or portfolio and you're curious about it more, or if you think social media really is the best way to go and this was the general evolution of it, leave a comment. Let me know. I really want to discuss this. So yeah, take it easy. And until next time, don't forget to tip.